Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about something that one of you guys had suggested in the comments. One of you guys suggested that I do a topic on resonance. So, today we are going to go into a powerful truth about your twin flame journey, the idea that our divine masculine does not forget us at all. Our divine masculine doesn't forget us. He's only forgetting himself. So now let's be real. When you are in separation and when we are in separation and when our divine masculine is not speaking to us, not showing up, or even disappearing off social media, it feels like you have been erased. I'm going to quickly do a mic test to ensure. Oh dear, before I forget. Okay. I think I should stop doing mic tests anymore. I think this mic is synced in well with my computer, so I don't have to worry about it working now. Anyway, let me go. Let me become serious again. I realize when I'm doing these late night recordings, usually it's a long day at work and I am just in channeling mode, right? So yeah. So as I was saying, it can feel like we are being erased. But the truth is deeper. Our divine masculine is not forgetting us. He's losing touch with his own soul. Hence why, be it partying or aimless traveling or just not facing the truth at all. So you see where I'm going with this, right? He is actually losing touch with his own soul, his own essence, and that's where our role as the divine feminine comes in. So, the first point I want to make is rejection can feel so sharp, right? Very sharp, and we have all been there before, even not only in this lifetime but lifetimes before and before. Anything on earth is always filled with rejection, and usually external rejection doesn't hurt as much, but what hurts us most is when our divine masculine rejects us, because literally it's like we are rejecting ourselves. But listen, when our divine masculine turns away, it isn't that we are unworthy or unlovable or just useless. It's that he's disconnected from himself. That's why I always say, show some empathy and compassion. As much as our divine masculine lashes out or, shows his angry self or is dismissive or in denial or uses words to to directly break you, it's often a reflection of what he is going through within. It's that he's disconnected from himself, and his nervous system can't handle the intensity of the connection before him. So he numbs, he runs, he distracts. But underneath, the pull towards you is still alive. Just a moment, guys. Oops. I was in the middle of uploading my daily videos. So I just wanted to check that. Anyway, as I was saying, the pull towards us is very much alive. And this is why we are sent as divine feminines, not to chase our divine masculine, not to fix him, not to convince him, not to persuade him, or not to take him out of earth by force. We are here to be the resonance keeper. That's why resonance is key. But what does that mean? It means our frequency, the way we hold our truth, our light, our love, because that becomes the mirror that reminds him of who he really is. So think of it like music. If one instrument in the orchestra goes out of tune, the others don't yell at it. The resonance of the orchestra pulls it back. So that's what happens in our connection. Every time we choose alignment, every time we embody our own soul, our divine masculine feels it. Even if he denies it, even if he's silent, his field is receiving that vibration. And sometimes you will notice signs. He deactivates his social media, or just because you are connected in, let's say, for example, Facebook, he would post more on Instagram that you're not connected on, or suddenly he would shift his social life towards where he feels like you're not watching. Or he deactivates, he goes quiet, he retreats. That doesn't mean he has forgotten you. It means his soul is pulling him inward, stripping away noise, creating space so he can actually hear the resonance you have been carrying all along. So the hardest task here is patience. The mind wants to scream, he's rejecting me, he doesn't care. But on a soul level, absence is often the labor of remembering. Silence is not hatred, it's resistance before surrender. So remember this. Our divine masculine never forgets us. He's battling with not forgetting himself. And that is why the universe has sent us here. Not to chase him, not to prove our worth, but to hold the resonance of home until he finally hears it. So, we have been speaking about how our divine masculine doesn't forget us, that he's forgetting himself. So now we are going to go deeper into how resonance actually works and why our divine feminine energy is key. Resonance isn't just a nice idea, it's actually an energetic mechanism. Our fields are linked through what we call the third energy. That means when we shift, our divine masculine shifts. When we align, he feels it. When you lose yourself in doubt, he feels that too. That's why the connection feels so intense, because you're literally exchanging codes through the field. Here's where many of us divine feminines tend to get stuck. We think our job is to remind him with words, with constant presence, or with proving your loyalty. It goes back to if I don't meet him, if I don't see him, you will forget me. If I don't keep the communication going, he will forget me, and that is when the performance stage intensifies. You want to do everything to just keep the communication going, right? You just and you got to honor that part of yourself too. That has to happen for this to happen now. See where I'm coming from, right? That's why it feels so intense, because like I said, we are exchanging codes all the time. So that's the reason why our job is not to remind him with presence or words or loyalty, because that actually weakens resonance. Because it comes from fear. Resonance is strongest when we are simply aligned with our own soul, standing in our power, not chasing or overgiving or trying to make our divine masculine feel like he's the king of the world. I mean, he is the king of our world. I'm not denying it. But when he is behaving like a boy, there's no point giving him the honor of a man. Because when we do that, we destabilize his field because he goes into confusion. So there's no point talking sense to an unawakened divine masculine. You can only talk sense to him when he is in his power. So the chasing or the overgiving will only make him run, because he's still in the veil of forgetfulness. He's still in his boyfriend energy, not husband energy. So what happens is we actually mirror back. When he behaves like a boy, we behave like a girl. When he behaves like a man, we behave like a wife. So let's take silence. When he pulls away, you might panic. But silence is not empty, it's full of resonance. Sometimes the most powerful reminder of who he is comes when you say nothing at all. But your field is anchored, calm and radiant. That stability creates the mirror he cannot escape. So that's why on his side, he may not even understand what is happening. The bubble face is so drawn, he's so much admiration, he will literally travel to the end of the world with you. He will literally come anywhere you invite him to come. He will cancel on his friends. He will just be there because he's not thinking. Usually the starting stage of meeting, he doesn't have time, for the mind to tell him, hey, don't meet, or he doesn't have time to update his friends. So it's only after a few months pass, and when his friends start to notice, why isn't he not hanging out with the boys anymore? Why is he canceling on them? What is happening? That's when the toxic friends, often these are the NPCs, or they can come in like, they would start, and it's natural, right? Just like how as women we have our sister tribes, men have their brother tribes as well. So that's why, when their mind comes in and when they start questioning the logic and rationality of the connection, they go into denial mode. They start saying things like, I'm not interested in you. They try to gaslight, they try to dismiss everything that happened. So that's why you cannot try to make sense of it all in his way. If not, you're just falling down the rabbit hole just like he is, right? But what you can do instead is you can honor what he's saying. If he says that he's not interested, accept it as the truth for the moment. But that doesn't dismiss all the moments he has spent with you, all the time that he was affectionate towards you, right? Because twin flame rejection, divine masculine rejection in a twin flame journey, and a normal guy rejecting you at a bar, they are two different things. You got to learn how to read energies, because energies speak louder than words. In the 3D world, action speaks louder than words, but in the spiritual world, energy speaks louder than words. So that's why on his side, he may not even understand what's happening. He just knows that no matter how much he tries to detach himself, something in him is unsettled when he drifts too far away from you. That something is resonance. His soul being pinged back into memory. Now here's the hard truth. Resonance isn't instant. It works in cycles. He resists, then he receives. He forgets, then he remembers. And every time the gap between forgetting and remembering gets smaller, this is why patience is not passive. It is an active holding of the field. So that's why our role is not to be our divine masculine savior, nor think of him as the savior, not to chase him into clarity. Our role is to embody clarity for ourselves, because when we stop forgetting who we are, he cannot keep forgetting who he is. That's the resonance paradox. Remembering ourselves helps him to remember himself. So that's why I want you to really hear this. The way you carry resonance is not by clinging tighter to him, but by holding truer to yourself. And that's when the feel does the work. That's when his forgetting begins to collapse. So, we've explored resonance, we've explored not chasing, and what brings him into remembrance. But now I want to take you through the stages of resonance, the phases you will both move through as this sacred frequency does its work. So stage 1, this is where it all begins. The moment you meet, there's no mistaking it, right? His body, his soul, his energy, they all recognize you and you recognize him. And this is the bubble phase that I was talking about, where everything is easy. You just go with the flow, like you're meeting every weekend, you're just seeing each other. It just flows because the resonance is instant, like a chord being struck. He may not understand it, but he feels it. This is why he can't forget you, even if years go by. He may pretend to the world that you don't mean anything, but that's far from the truth. You see, that's the stage 1 of recognition. So, stage 2 is the forgetting. After the recognition, resistance kicks in. This is where the ego, the karmic programs, the fear of losing control, all of that rushes to the surface, and suddenly he pulls away. He convinces himself it was nothing. He buries it under work, distractions, karmic patterns, or silence. But remember, he's not forgetting you. He's trying to forget what you woke in him. Stage 3, here's where many of us divine feminines collapse. When our divine masculine resists, we think it's rejection. And of course, sometimes divine masculines can be very blunt. But like it said, sometimes English might not be their first language, So sometimes, the words he may use can get lost in translation. But having said that, like I said, the test is energy. When he resists, you think it's rejection because based on his action and words. But resistance is proof of resonance. If you were not significant, he wouldn't need to push you so hard. His soul is fighting the friction between the truth he felt in you and the fear of losing his old identity. And that brings us to stage 4. This is when resonance starts breaking through again. Maybe he hears your name, dreams of you, or sees you in the news if you are famous. Feels your presence during a quiet moment. It may look random, but it isn't. Resonance bypasses his defenses. His soul keeps pinging him, reminding him of who he is through you. This is the realignment stage, And stage 5 is when the recognition returns. Eventually, he can't deny it. The remembering comes back. It may not be permanent yet. It often arrives in flashes. But with each cycle, the recognition grows stronger. This is why reunion windows open. This is why contact happens again after silence. The resonance becomes too loud to ignore. So what's our role across all the stages? Through all these stages, our role is not to micromanage our divine masculine's journey. Hear me out very clearly. Your role is not to micromanage his journey. Your role is to embody consistency. Every time you remember yourself, you shorten his forgetting. Every time you align with your truth, you amplify his recognition. So when you ask, why does it take so long? Why does he resist? Now you know. Because resonance works in stages. Recognition, forgetting, resistance, realignment, and recognition. And every time he comes a little closer to home. So now we're going to talk about the ways as divine feminines, how we accidentally sabotage the resonance field, how we weaken the resonance field, and how to stop doing it. The first mistake that we are all guilty of is overgiving. Overgiving, you might have never given that much energetically, materially. You are just on a roll, You're just cooking for him. Like example, you are like researching what he loves. You are like doing everything to make him feel like the king of the world. But that is okay. You see your divine husband after a long time. Of course, you want to cook him a feast. But however, overgiving, this is the biggest trap. The moment he pulls away, you panic. You think, I have to remind him of my love. I have to show him I'm here. So you over message, you overextend. You over-sacrifice. But overgiving doesn't amplify resonance. It distorts it. Because now your energy is saying, I don't trust the field to do its work. Mistake 2. Chasing. Chasing is not just physical, alright? It's energetic. Even if you don't text him, if you're obsessively checking his WhatsApp status or his social media, or looking for signs on the internet every 5 minutes, or living in his energy instead of your own, you're chasing. And chasing flips the polarity. Instead of him feeling drawn back through resonance, he feels pushed farther away. Mistake number 3: collapsing into doubt. Doubt is natural, but when you collapse into it, when you start saying, maybe I imagined it all, maybe it's not real, maybe you're feeling crazy, you weaken the resonance, because the field amplifies your frequency. If your frequency says this connection is fake, then he feels even more confused. The key isn't to avoid doubt altogether, it's to notice it and re-anchor yourself in truth. Mistake number 4: making him the source of everything. Here's a subtle one, all right? Sometimes you give your power by making him the source of your worth. You think, if he validates me, then I'm enough. If he comes back, then I'm chosen. But that makes your resonance dependent on his actions. True resonance comes from remembering your own essence first, because that's the vibration that calls him back. Mistake number 5: confusing silence with absence. When he goes quiet, you assume he's gone. But silence is not absence. Sometimes silence is when resonance is doing its deepest work, because his ego is quiet and his soul is listening. If you rush into panic, you disrupt the process. So, how do you avoid these mistakes? You come back to yourself every time. Instead of overgiving, you receive your own energy. Instead of buying him food, instead of buying him stuff, buy stuff for yourself. Instead of over texting him, journal, write to yourself, write letters to yourself. Instead of chasing, you anchor. Instead of collapsing into doubt, you affirm your knowing. Instead of making him the source of everything, you return to your soul. That's when resonance is strongest. So remember, beloved souls, resonance doesn't mean doing more. It means being more of who you are already. So when you stop weakening the field with fear-based actions, you give space for the field to do exactly what it was designed to do. Bringing back to resonance. So I want to talk about what it actually feels like for our divine masculine when resonance hits him. The subconscious pull. First, understand this, all right? Resonance doesn't arrive in his conscious mind at first. It hits his nervous system. He feels restless, distracted, unsettled. He won't even know why. He may try to numb it with work, partying, aimless traveling, aimless partying. His guy tribe. Usually other for divine masculine, they always say a woman's enemy is other women, but actually a man's enemy are other men. And nowadays the new age guy tribes can be more than nurturing, they are disruptive. They so that's why you have a lot of men tribes coming in, and they are so gym focused, and it's all good, it's all fine. But when they start controlling, like I've heard of how guy friends, they like to make sure that their guy friends break up with their girlfriends, so that they can hang out as boys and they can just play around with other women, and how they can just have aimless connections. And so sometimes as a man tribe, they can. So this is what I mean: other people, entertainment, work. But the pool doesn't stop. So your divine masculine may try to numb it with everything, hanging out with the boys, going to the beach, traveling, doing stuff. But the pool doesn't stop. This is why he sometimes looks like he's running, but really he's running from himself. He may dance with 1,000 ladies out there, but Even without touching you, he feels aroused. That's how the subconscious pull works. So the emotional collision, Next comes the emotion. When your resonance is strong, he feels both longing and fear at the same time. Longing because he feels home in your frequency. Fear because he knows that being with you means dismantling everything false he has built. That emotional collision is why he swings between warmth and coldness, closeness and distance. Then his mind tries to catch up. He starts overthinking. Why can't I stop thinking about her? Why does she keep showing up in my dreams? What is she trying to do? Why is she always in my thoughts? Why do I feel guilty or empty when I pull away? These thoughts are in his mind. These thoughts are his mind trying to make sense of what his soul already knows. It doesn't stop at emotions and thoughts. His body responds to. Some of our divine masculines can't sleep during separation. Some get random bursts of energies or even physical symptoms. That's why sometimes you feel your divine masculine's energies, like waking up next to him, heart flutters, pressure to the chest, or sudden tears they can't explain. This is resonance shaking him awake, forcing him to feel what he would rather ignore. Finally, there's that soul layer. You know, See, we have been talking about the subconscious pull, the emotional collision, the mental disruption, the body's response, the soul awakening, right? That's the soul layer. And this is when he can no longer deny it. He might not fully admit it to you yet, but he knows you're different. The connection is different. No one feels like this. That's the seed of his remembrance. And once that seed is alive, it never dies. And why does this matter to us divine feminines a lot? When we understand what our divine masculine goes through, you stop taking his silence so personally. Because now you know, when he goes quiet, it's not that he forgot you. It's the resonance is overwhelming him, is processing it, even if it looks like avoidance. So remember this. Your resonance doesn't just sit in the air. It shakes his body, disrupts his emotions, challenges his mind, and awakens his soul. And that's why no matter how far he runs, he will never truly forget you. So I want to wrap it all up, by looking at how resonance eventually forces reunion windows. Those sacred openings where your divine masculine can no longer resist the pull towards you. A reunion window isn't random, it's the point where his resistance collapses under the weight of resonance. Cycles of forgetting and remembering eventually reach a breaking point where the soul says, enough, you cannot ignore this anymore. That's when contact happens again. That's when you bump into each other. That's when synchronicities line up perfectly that even he can't explain them away. So the build up to the window, before a window opens, there's usually turbulence. You may act distant, short tempered, or even cold. That's because the resonance is agitating everything falls inside him. Think of it like pressure building inside a container. At some point, it has to release, and that release is often the reunion window. During these windows, what does our divine masculine feel in the window? During this window, he feels both terrified and magnetized. Terrified because he knows stepping towards you means transformation. Magnetized because the relief of being in your frequency is undeniable. This is why reunion moments often carry contradictions. He may reach out, then retreat, then return again. His soul is full battle mode with his ego. That's why he may lash out and tell you, I'll never ever speak to you again, and give you an angry face, metaphorically, of course. And he might say things, he may make you feel like that's it. and he will block you and make you feel like he's never going to come back, but that's far from the truth, and he's lying to himself when he acts that way. So what must we do as divine feminines? Here's the hard part for us. When the window opens, our instinct is to grab it, right? To hold it tight, to demand permanence. But you see, don't look at it as permanence, look at it as infinity instead, because our role is to allow, to stay steady, to treat the window not as the finish line but as a sacred checkpoint, because every time a reunion window happens, it imprints more truth into our divine masculine system, making the next one come faster, stronger, and clearer. So the repetition of windows, reunion windows don't just happen just once, they repeat each cycle, like I said, recognition, forgetting, resistance, realignment, recognition, build towards another window, and eventually the windows come closer together until the field stabilizes into lasting union. So beloveds, remember this: resonance always wins, but it may take months, years, or even lifetimes, but it never fails, because no matter how strong the ego, the soul cannot ignore home forever. And this is why our divine masculine cannot forget us. He simply cannot. The resonance we carry, he will always remember. The resonance you carry ensures he will remember. So with that, I hope you have enjoyed this discourse. It's a bit longer than my usual, but I'm just covering a lot of ground. So I hope you have enjoyed this, and tell me in the comments, what resonance mean to you. And with that, if you guys want to work one-on-one with me, you can book a one-on-one session in the link provided in description. All sessions are conducted by me via video call, and it's live, so you can ask me as much questions as you want during our session. I've also introduced a couple of healings that you want to check out on my website as well. With that, I will see you all again with another discourse. Take care and love you all.